The unveiling. In the distant reaches of the Milky Way, the Galactic Empire reigned supreme. Their dominance was unchallenged for centuries, until a forgotten corner of the galaxy stirred, a corner where humanity resided. Earth, once a peripheral player in galactic affairs, had long been underestimated. But hidden in the shadows of its turbulent past lay a secret that would shake the foundations of the galaxy: the ancient Dreadnought fleet. Captain Alexei Volkov, a veteran of the Earth Defense Fleet, stared in disbelief at the monitor. His routine patrol had taken a startling turn when a garbled transmission from a remote outpost reported an enormous alien fleet approaching Earth. The description alone was enough to send chills down his spine. A fleet larger than any humanity had ever faced, belonging to the ruthless Zorian Empire. The Zorians were a race known for their advanced technology and brutal conquest. Legends whispered of their nearly invincible ships and the half of the galaxy they had already subjugated. Now their gaze was fixed on Earth. As Captain Volkov absorbed the gravity of the situation, his screen flickered to life with the stern visage of Admiral Mikhail Zhukov, the head of Earth's space forces. "Captain Volkov," Zhukov began, his voice steady yet grave, "we have a situation. The fleet you see belongs to the Zorian Empire. They are the most feared force in the galaxy. Our intelligence suggests they are unstoppable, and their target is us." Volkov's heart pounded. "Are they here to conquer Earth, sir?" "Undoubtedly," Zhukov replied, his expression darkening. "But we have a plan, a desperate one. It's our only hope." As Zhukov spoke, a new image appeared on Volkov's screen. Massive, ancient starships, their design more angular and imposing than anything in Earth's modern fleet. These were the Dreadnoughts, relics from a bygone era when humanity had faced extinction and responded with unmatched engineering. Built in secret, they had been preserved in a hidden star system, awaiting a time when their power would be needed again. "These ships," Zhukov continued, "are equipped with weaponry that can crack planets and distort spacetime. They were hidden away to prevent them from being misused. Now, they are our last line of defense." Volkov's eyes widened as he took in the scale of the Dreadnoughts. They were colossal, bristling with weapons and armored with materials unknown to modern science. The thought of commanding such a ship filled him with both awe and trepidation. "Your mission," Zhukov instructed, "is to retrieve these Dreadnoughts and bring them to the front lines. They are our only chance against the Zorians. This is a one-way trip, Captain, but the fate of Earth depends on you." With a nod, Volkov accepted the mission, fully aware of the suicidal odds. "Understood, Admiral. We'll bring them back." As the screen went dark, Volkov turned to his crew, their faces a mix of fear and resolve. They all knew the stakes. "Prepare for warp," he commanded. "We have a mission: to wake the legends and defend our home." As they dropped out of warp, the view shifted to a barren star system. Volkov's ship coasted through the void, sensors reaching out to confirm their target. The desolation of the system was almost palpable, a graveyard of forgotten worlds orbiting a dying sun. "Captain," the sensor officer's voice broke the silence, "I'm detecting something near the third planet. It's massive." Volkov's breath hitched as the screen zoomed in, revealing the outlines of the Dreadnoughts nestled among the ruins of ancient cities. They were as magnificent as they were terrifying, their dark hulls etched with the scars of past battles. "Take us in, helmsman," Volkov ordered, his voice barely masking the awe he felt. Nice and easy. The approach was slow, tense. These ships had been silent sentinels for centuries, awaiting the call to arms. Now that call had come. As they closed the distance, the full scale of the Dreadnoughts became apparent. They were behemoths, far larger than any ship in the modern fleet. "Prepare boarding parties," Volkov instructed. "We need to get those ships operational as soon as possible." Just as they were about to begin the boarding process, alarms blared. "Captain," the tactical officer shouted, "multiple contacts incoming. Zorian scouts. The screen filled with sleek, deadly alien ships, their intent clear. The Zorians had found them. Battle stations. Volkov roared. Prepare to engage. The first shots rang out, marking the beginning of a battle that would determine the fate of Earth. Volkov knew they were outmatched, but they had no choice. The Dreadnoughts were their only hope, and they had to protect them at all costs. As the ship shuddered under the impact of enemy fire, Volkov steeled himself. This was just the beginning. The legends were awakening, and with them, the hope of a besieged humanity. The awakening of giants. The battle above the desolate planet was fierce and unforgiving. The Zorian scouts, sleek and agile, danced around Volkov's ship, their weapons blazing. Despite the crew's best efforts, the human vessel struggled to keep pace with the alien technology. The Zorians' advanced shielding and maneuverability made them formidable opponents, and each hit on Volkov's ship brought them closer to failure. "Shields down to 20%, Captain," the tactical officer called out, his voice trained with the stress of the situation. Volkov's mind raced. They were running out of time. The Dreadnoughts lay silent below, a dormant force waiting to be unleashed. But they couldn't hold out much longer against the Zorian onslaught. They needed a miracle, and they needed it now. "Helm, bring us closer to the surface," Volkov ordered, a plan forming in his mind. "Tactical, divert all power to forward shields. We need to buy time for the boarding parties." The ship lurched as it accelerated toward the planet, the view of the colossal dreadnoughts growing larger. As they neared, the boarding parties prepared to launch. Their mission was to access the ancient ships and activate their systems, a task fraught with uncertainty. The technology was ancient, and there was no guarantee it would even work after centuries of dormancy. "Launch the boarding parties," Volkov commanded. "Let's get those ships online." Small shuttles detached from the main vessel, speeding toward the dreadnoughts. Volkov watched as they disappeared into the dark void, hoping against hope that they would succeed. The battle above raged on, with the Zorians relentless in their pursuit. Every hit they took brought them closer to destruction. "Incoming transmission from the surface, Captain," the communications officer announced. The screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Lieutenant Carver, the leader of the boarding parties. His expression was grim but determined. "We've made it inside, Captain. The systems are old, but they're responding. We're working on bringing the power online now." "Good work, Lieutenant," Volkov replied, the tension in his voice palpable. "We need those ships operational. We're running out of time up here." As the shuttles docked with the dreadnoughts, the crew began the painstaking process of reactivating the ancient systems. The interiors of the ships were vast and dark, filled with consoles and machinery that had been untouched for centuries. Dust hung in the air, disturbed by the sudden activity. Carver and his team moved quickly, their experience with old technology guiding them through the process. The Dreadnought systems were complex, a testament to the ingenuity of their creators. Despite the years, the technology had held up remarkably well, a testament to the craftsmanship of the past. "Captain," Carver's voice came through the comms again, "we're starting to get some power. The reactors are coming online, but it's going to take time." "Understood," Volkov replied, gritting his teeth. "Keep at it. We're holding as best we can up here." Above, the battle continued to escalate. The Zorians, realizing the threat posed by the awakening dreadnoughts, intensified their attacks. Volkov's ship shuddered under the barrage, alarms blaring as systems began to fail. "Shields at 10%, Captain," the tactical officer reported, desperation creeping into his voice. Volkov clenched his fists. They were out of options. If the dreadnoughts didn't come online soon, they were done for. He glanced at the screen, where the dark silhouettes of the ancient ships loomed large. They were so close, yet so far from being able to help. Just as hope seemed to fade, a deep, resonant hum filled the air. The view screen flickered as sensors picked up a massive energy surge from the planet below. The dreadnoughts were waking up. "Lieutenant Carver, what's happening down there?" Volkov demanded. "We did it, Captain." Carver's voice was triumphant. "The reactors are online. The dreadnoughts are powering up." On the surface, the ancient ships began to stir. Lights flickered on, running along the colossal hulls like veins of energy. The ground around them trembled as the dreadnought's massive systems roared to life. It was as if giants had awoken from a long slumber, their power and might ready to be unleashed. "All ships, prepare for emergency maneuvers," Volkov ordered, a newfound urgency in his voice. "We're getting those dreadnoughts airborne." The next moments were a blur of activity. The dreadnoughts, now fully powered, began to lift off from the planet's surface. Their massive forms rose into the sky, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. The sight was awe-inspiring and terrifying, a testament to the raw power that humanity had once wielded. As the dreadnoughts ascended, they opened fire. Beams of energy and projectiles shot out from their weapon arrays, targeting the Zorian ships with devastating precision. The tables had turned. The once overwhelming Zorian scouts now found themselves outmatched, their advanced technology no match for the sheer firepower of the ancient dreadnoughts. The battle, which had seemed hopeless moments before, quickly swung in favor of the humans. The dreadnoughts, with their ancient but immensely powerful weapons, tore through the Zorian ships. The alien fleet, caught off guard by the sudden emergence of these colossal warships, began to falter. "Captain, the dreadnoughts are taking control of the battlefield," the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with awe. "We're winning." Volkov allowed himself a small smile, a rare moment of relief in the chaos. "Keep up the pressure," he ordered. "Let's finish this." The Zorian ships, realizing the tide had turned, attempted to retreat. But the dreadnoughts, now fully operational and under human control, pursued them relentlessly. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed or forced to flee, leaving the humans in control of the battlefield. As the last of the Zorian scouts vanished into the void, a cheer went up among Volkov's crew. They had done it. Against all odds, they had awakened the giants and turned the tide of battle. But even as they celebrated, Volkov knew this was only the beginning. The Zorians would return, and next time, they would come with a full invasion force. The dreadnoughts had given them a fighting chance, but the war was far from over. For now, though, they had won a crucial victory. The dreadnoughts were theirs, and with them, humanity had a new hope. As Volkov looked out at the vastness of space, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. They would fight, and they would defend their home, no matter the cost. The legends had awoken, and with them, the indomitable spirit of humanity. The battle was won, but the war had only just begun. Rallying the forces, the victory over the Zorian scouts was a momentous occasion, but Captain Volkov knew that it was just a temporary reprieve. The Zorian Empire, with its vast resources and technological superiority, would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup and return with a force capable of overwhelming Earth's defenses. The dreadnoughts had given humanity a fighting chance, but they needed more than just powerful ships to stand against the impending storm. Volkov stood on the bridge of his ship, the tactical display showing the now dominant presence of the dreadnoughts. The ancient warships hovered above the desolate planet, their weapons still charged and ready. It was a formidable sight, a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. But as impressive as the dreadnoughts were, they were only part of the solution. "We need to rally the rest of the fleet," Volkov said, turning to his senior officers. "The dreadnoughts are a powerful asset, but we can't rely on them alone. We need every ship and every resource we can muster." His officers nodded in agreement. The crew had seen firsthand the might of the Zorian ships and understood the gravity of the situation. The dreadnoughts, while powerful, were also ancient. Their systems were robust, but they needed time to fully integrate them into the modern fleet. Time was a luxury they didn't have. Volkov opened a secure communication channel to Earth. The image of Admiral Zhukov, appeared on the screen, his expression tense but relieved. "Captain Volkov, what's the situation?" "We've secured the Dreadnoughts, Admiral," Volkov reported. "They're fully operational and under our control. We've driven off the Zorian scouts, but we expect them to return in greater numbers." Zhukov nodded, his eyes narrowing in thought. "Good work, Captain. The Dreadnoughts are a significant asset, but we need to prepare for the inevitable counterattack. I'm authorizing the activation of all reserve fleets. We'll need every ship we can get." Volkov felt a surge of determination. The stakes were high, but the opportunity to protect Earth and potentially change the course of history was within their grasp. "Understood, Admiral. We'll coordinate with the fleet and prepare for the next engagement." As the communication ended, Volkov turned to his crew. "Prepare to jump back to Earth. We need to integrate the Dreadnoughts into the fleet and prepare for the next wave. This is just the beginning." The ship's engines roared to life as they plotted a course back to Earth. The Dreadnoughts, massive and imposing, followed closely behind. The return journey was filled with a mix of emotions: relief from the victory, anxiety for the battles to come, and a sense of urgency to prepare. Rallying the forces. The victory over the Zorian scouts was a momentous occasion, but Captain Volkov knew that it was just a temporary reprieve. The Zorian Empire, with its vast resources and technological superiority, would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup and return with a force capable of overwhelming Earth's defenses. The Dreadnoughts had given humanity a fighting chance, but they needed more than just powerful ships to stand against the impending storm. Volkov stood on the bridge of his ship, the tactical display showing the now dominant presence of the Dreadnoughts. The ancient warships hovered above the desolate planet, their weapons still charged and ready. It was a formidable sight, a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. But as impressive as the Dreadnoughts were, they were only part of the solution. "We need to rally the rest of the fleet," Volkov said, turning to his senior officers. "The Dreadnoughts are a powerful asset, but we can't rely on them alone. We need every ship and every resource we can muster." His officers nodded in agreement. The crew had seen firsthand the might of the Zorian ships and understood the gravity of the situation. The Dreadnoughts, while powerful, were also ancient. Their systems were robust, but they needed time to fully integrate them into the modern fleet. Time was a luxury they didn't have. Volkov opened a secure communication channel to Earth. The image of Admiral Zhukov appeared on the screen, his expression tense but relieved. "Captain Volkov, what's the situation?" "We've secured the Dreadnoughts," Admiral Volkov reported. "They're fully operational and under our control. We've driven off the Zorian scouts, but we expect them to return in greater numbers." Zhukov nodded, his eyes narrowing in thought. "Good work, Captain. The Dreadnoughts are a significant asset, but we need to prepare for the inevitable counterattack. I'm authorizing the activation of all reserve fleets. We'll need every ship we can get." Volkov felt a surge of determination. The stakes were high, but the opportunity to protect Earth and potentially change the course of history was within their grasp. "Understood, Admiral. We'll coordinate with the fleet and prepare for the next engagement." As the communication ended, Volkov turned to his crew. "Prepare to jump back to Earth. We need to integrate the Dreadnoughts into the fleet and prepare for the next wave. This is just the beginning." The ship's engines roared to life as they plotted a course back to Earth. The Dreadnoughts, massive and imposing, followed closely behind. The return journey was filled with a mix of emotions: relief from the victory, anxiety for the battles to come, and a sense of urgency to prepare. Upon arriving in Earth's orbit, the Dreadnoughts were met with awe and reverence. The sight of these ancient behemoths, long thought lost to history, inspired hope and fear in equal measure. They represented humanity's past struggles and its potential for greatness. As the fleet began preparations for the coming battle, Volkov and his team worked tirelessly to integrate the Dreadnoughts into the command structure. The process was complex, involving the synchronization of systems and the training of new crews. The ancient technology, while powerful, required specialized knowledge to operate effectively. Meanwhile, on Earth, the call to arms resonated through every corner of the planet. The news of the Zorian threat and the activation of the Dreadnoughts spread rapidly. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, eager to defend their home. Factories ramped up production of weapons and supplies, while scientists and engineers worked around the clock to understand and harness the advanced technology of the Dreadnoughts. In the midst of these preparations, Volkov received a message from Admiral Zhukov. "Captain, we need to convene a strategy meeting. The Zorians won't wait long to retaliate, and we need to be ready." The meeting took place aboard the flagship of the Earth Defense Fleet. High-ranking officers and leaders from various sectors gathered to discuss their strategy. The room was filled with tension, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on everyone present. "Based on our intelligence," Zhukov began, "the Zorians are likely to launch a full-scale invasion. Their primary target will be Earth, but we can't rule out attacks on our other colonies and outposts. We need a comprehensive defense plan." The room buzzed with discussion as the leaders debated the best course of action. The Dreadnought's capabilities were a wild card, their potential both a strength and a liability. The ancient ships were powerful, but also unfamiliar to most of the fleet. Their integration was a challenge, and there was concern about relying too heavily on them. As the meeting continued, a plan began to take shape. The fleet would be divided into several groups, each tasked with defending key locations and intercepting Zorian forces. The Dreadnoughts would be positioned at strategic points, serving as both a deterrent and a counteroffensive force. Meanwhile, Earth's defenses would be bolstered, with planetary shields and ground forces ready to repel any invaders. Volkov listened intently, taking in the details and offering his insights. The plan was ambitious and risky, but it was their best shot at survival. The Zorians were a formidable foe, but humanity had faced insurmountable odds before. They had to believe in their strength and ingenuity. As the meeting concluded, Zhukov addressed the room. "We have a tough fight ahead of us, but we have the means and the will to defend our home. The Zorians underestimate us, and that will be their mistake. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." With a renewed sense of purpose, Volkov returned to his ship. The battle for Earth's survival was imminent, but he felt a deep resolve. The Dreadnoughts were more than just powerful weapons. They were a symbol of humanity's resilience and determination. They would stand as a beacon of hope, a reminder that no matter how dark the times, humanity would always fight for its survival. As preparations continued, the fleet readied itself for the inevitable clash. The skies above Earth were filled with activity as ships moved into position and crews prepared for battle. The Dreadnoughts, now fully integrated into the fleet, loomed large and imposing, their presence a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. The countdown to the next battle had begun, and with it, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. But one thing was certain: they would not go down without a fight. The Dreadnoughts were awake, and with them, the hope and strength of all humanity. The calm before the storm. The fleet orbited Earth in a state of tense anticipation. The Dreadnoughts, massive and awe-inspiring, held their position among the ranks of the Earth Defense Fleet, a stark reminder of the imminent threat and the slim hope they carried. On board his ship, Captain Volkov stood before a viewport, gazing at the planet below. The blue and green jewel of Earth looked peaceful from this distance, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing in the depths of space. Volkov's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and plans. The Dreadnoughts were now fully operational and manned by some of the best crews Earth had to offer. However, the challenge lay not just in wielding these ancient weapons, but also in coordinating the fleet for the coming battle. The Zorians would not be easily deterred. They would come with overwhelming force, and humanity needed to be prepared. The command deck was a hub of activity, with officers coordinating movements and updating tactical data. Volkov turned to his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Ilara Jansen, a seasoned veteran known for her tactical acumen. "Status report," he said, his voice steady despite the underlying tension. Jansen nodded, consulting her datapad. "The fleet is positioned and ready. The dreadnoughts are fully integrated, and their systems are synchronized with the rest of the fleet. Ground forces on Earth are on high alert, and planetary shields are at full strength." Volkov felt a surge of confidence in his team. They were prepared, as much as they could be under the circumstances. He knew the Zorians were a formidable enemy, but he also believed in the strength and resilience of his people. "Good," Volkov replied. "Make sure all ships maintain communication silence until the Zorians make their move. We need every advantage we can get." As the final preparations were made, Volkov took a moment to reflect on the gravity of the situation. The dreadnoughts were a powerful symbol of humanity's past struggles and triumphs. They had been built in an era of desperation, a time when humanity had fought tooth and nail for survival. Now, they were a beacon of hope, a reminder that humanity had always risen to the challenge, no matter the odds. The calm before the storm was palpable. The vastness of space seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash. Volkov's thoughts turned to the people on Earth, blissfully unaware of the impending battle above them. They went about their daily lives, unaware that the fate of their world was being decided in the cold void of space. Suddenly, a series of alarms broke the silence. Volkov snapped back to the present, his senses alert. Jansen looked up from her console, her expression grim. "Captain, we've detected multiple Zorian ships on the edge of the system. They're heading straight for us." Volkov's heart pounded. The moment they had been preparing for had arrived. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered, his voice echoing through the ship. The crews sprang into action, their training kicking in. The calm was shattered as the reality of war set in. The tactical display lit up with red icons, representing the approaching Zorian fleet. Volkov's eyes narrowed as he studied the incoming ships. The Zorians had brought a formidable force, far larger than the scouting party they had faced before. This was a full-scale invasion. "Activate the Dreadnought's weapon systems," Volkov commanded. "Prepare to engage at my signal." The Dreadnoughts responded, their massive weapon arrays humming with energy. The ancient ships were ready, their power unmatched by any modern vessel. Volkov knew that the first strike would be crucial. They needed to hit the Zorians hard and fast, breaking their momentum before they could fully deploy. The Zorian fleet drew closer, their sleek, deadly ships a stark contrast to the hulking dreadnoughts. The alien vessels moved with a grace that belied their destructive potential, their formations tight and disciplined. Volkov could almost feel the eyes of the Zorian commanders, watching, analyzing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Wait for it," Volkov murmured, watching the tactical display closely. The tension was thick, every second stretching into an eternity. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, the lives of billions resting on the decisions he made in the next few moments. The Zorians closed the distance, entering the range of the Dreadnought's long-range weapons. Volkov's eyes flicked to the countdown timer, ticking away the seconds until the optimal engagement range. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, the calm before the storm giving way to the fury of battle. "Now," Volkov shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. "All ships, open fire." The Dreadnoughts unleashed their fury. Beams of energy and massive projectiles shot out from their weapon arrays, slicing through the darkness of space towards the Zorian fleet. The sheer power of the attack was breathtaking, a testament to the destructive potential of the ancient warships. The first volley struck the Zorian ships, tearing through their ranks with devastating effect. Explosions blossomed in the void, as alien vessels disintegrated under the assault. The Dreadnought's weapons were unlike anything the Zorians had faced before, their power overwhelming even the advanced alien technology. The rest of the Earth defense fleet followed suit, launching their own attacks. Missiles and energy blasts filled the space between the two fleets, turning the once peaceful expanse into a chaotic battlefield. The Zorians responded with their own firepower, their ships weaving and dodging as they returned fire. Volkov watched the battle unfold, his eyes flicking between the tactical display and the viewport. The Dreadnoughts were holding their own, their immense firepower keeping the Zorian fleet at bay. But the aliens were adapting, their ships shifting tactics to avoid the worst of the onslaught. "Focus fire on their command ships," Volkov ordered. "We need to disrupt their coordination." The Dreadnoughts adjusted their aim, targeting the larger Zorian vessels that appeared to be coordinating the fleet's movements. The powerful beams and projectiles lanced out, striking the command ships with pinpoint accuracy. The Zorian fleet faltered, their formations breaking as their leadership was disrupted. But the battle was far from over. The Zorians, despite their losses, continued to press forward. Their ships were relentless, their attacks growing more coordinated as they adapted to the Dreadnought's power. The humans had landed a heavy blow, but the Zorians were not defeated yet. Volkov knew they couldn't afford to get complacent. The Dreadnoughts were a powerful asset, but they were not invincible. The Zorians would continue to adapt, to find weaknesses in their defenses. The battle was a test of endurance, a struggle to hold the line against a relentless enemy. As the battle raged on, Volkov's thoughts turned to the people of Earth. The fate of the entire planet rested on this fight. They had to win, no matter the cost. The Dreadnoughts were their best hope, a symbol of humanity's determination to survive against all odds. The calm before the storm had passed, and now they were in the eye of the hurricane. The outcome of this battle would shape the future of humanity, and Volkov was determined to see it through to the end. They had come too far to fail now. The Dreadnoughts were awake, and with them, the hopes and dreams of all humanity. The Earth Defense Fleet surged forward, seizing the moment. The Zorians, caught off guard by the destruction of their flagship, were thrown into disarray. The human ships, now fighting with renewed vigor, pressed their advantage. The Dreadnoughts, still brimming with power, led the charge, their weapons cutting through the alien vessels with ease. One by one, the Zorian ships fell. Some attempted to retreat, but the humans were relentless, refusing to let their enemy escape. The battle, once so uncertain, had shifted decisively in humanity's favor. The Zorians, so confident in their technological superiority, had underestimated the resolve and ingenuity of the human race. As the last of the Zorian ships fled or was destroyed, a quiet settled over the battlefield. The Earth Defense Fleet, battered but victorious, held its position. The immediate threat was over, but the victory had come at a cost. Many ships had been damaged and lives lost. Yet, against all odds, they had won. On the bridge of his ship, Captain Volkov allowed himself a moment of relief. The danger was not entirely gone. The Zorians were still a threat, and there would be challenges ahead. But for now, they had survived. The Dreadnoughts, once a relic of the past, had proven to be the key to their salvation. Volkov turned to his crew, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and elation. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with pride. "We stood our ground, and we won." The crew erupted in cheers, a cathartic release of the tension that had gripped them for so long. They had faced a formidable enemy and come out on top. The message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. As the fleet began to regroup and assess the damage, Volkov knew that this victory was just the beginning. The Zorians would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup and return, perhaps with even greater force. But for now, humanity had bought itself time. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Dreadnoughts, now fully integrated into the fleet, would be a crucial asset in the battles to come. They had proven their worth, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of those who had built them centuries ago. As the stars shone brightly in the background, Captain Volkov looked out at the remnants of the battlefield. The fight for survival was not yet over, but he knew that humanity would face whatever came next with the same courage and resilience that had brought them through this battle. The turning point had been reached, and now They would prepare for the challenges ahead. Aftermath and reflection. As the smoke cleared and the debris drifted away, the Earth Defense Fleet took stock of the battlefield. The once pristine void was now littered with wreckage from both human and Zorian ships. The cost of victory was evident, and the sense of relief was tinged with the sorrow of loss. Captain Volkov stood on the bridge, overseeing the aftermath. His ship, though scared from the fierce battle, had survived. The Dreadnoughts, once ancient relics, had proven to be invaluable. They hovered in formation, their imposing presence a stark reminder of the power humanity could wield when pushed to the brink. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Ilara Jansen reported, "Our losses are significant. Several ships are heavily damaged, and we have multiple casualties. Medical teams are working around the clock." Volkov nodded solemnly. "Understood, Jansen. Coordinate with the fleet. Prioritize rescue operations and medical aid. We need to take care of our people." As Jansen relayed the orders, Volkov turned his attention to the strategic display. The Zorian fleet had been decimated, their flagship destroyed, and their remaining forces scattered. Yet he knew this victory was but a single battle in what could become a prolonged conflict. The Zorians had underestimated humanity's resilience, but they would likely return with greater force and cunning. A communication request flashed on the screen. It was Admiral Zhukov. Volkov accepted the transmission, and the Admiral's stern face appeared, softened slightly by a look of relief. "Captain Volkov, congratulations on a well-fought battle," Zhukov began. "The destruction of the Zorian flagship was a critical blow to their operations. You and your crew have done a tremendous job." "Thank you, Admiral," Volkov replied. "But our work is far from over. The Zorians won't take this defeat lightly. We need to be prepared for their next move." Zhukov nodded. "Agreed. We'll begin fortifying our defenses and preparing for a potential counterattack. The Dreadnoughts will be central to our strategy moving forward. Their power was decisive today." Volkov glanced at the tactical readout of the Dreadnoughts. "They are formidable, Admiral, but we must ensure they're fully operational and integrated with the rest of the fleet. We can't rely solely on their firepower." "Indeed," Zhukov said. "We'll have our best engineers work on them. In the meantime, we need to send a message to the Zorians. They need to know that humanity will not bow to their tyranny." As the communication ended, Volkov turned to his crew. They had fought bravely, and now it was time to regroup and heal. He addressed them, his voice carrying the weight of leadership. "Everyone, you've done an incredible job today. We've defended our home and shown the galaxy that humanity will stand its ground. But we can't rest on our laurels. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." The crew acknowledged his words with a mix of determination and exhaustion. The immediate danger had passed, but the future was uncertain. They all understood the gravity of the situation. This battle was a wake-up call, a reminder that their fight for survival was far from over. As the fleet regrouped, rescue and repair efforts intensified. Medical ships moved between the damaged vessels, evacuating the wounded and providing aid. The engineers worked tirelessly, patching up critical systems and ensuring the fleet could continue to operate. Volkov took a moment to himself, stepping away from the chaos of the bridge. He walked to a small observation deck, where he could see the stars shining brightly. The vastness of space stretched out before him, a constant reminder of how small they were in the grand scheme of things. Yet it also symbolized the boundless potential of humanity. He thought about the Dreadnoughts, ancient and powerful, hidden away for centuries. They were a testament to human ingenuity and foresight. Their reactivation had been a desperate gamble, but it had paid off. Now, they were more than just weapons. They were symbols of hope and resilience. Volkov's thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of the door. It was Ilara Jansen, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "Captain," she began, "I've been thinking about the Dreadnoughts. They're incredible, but we don't know everything about them. Their technology, their history. There's so much we need to learn." Volkov nodded. You're right, Ilara. The Dreadnoughts are our greatest asset right now, but they're also a mystery. We need to understand them fully if we're to use them effectively. And not just for battle. For our future. Jansen smiled faintly. The future. It's hard to think about when we're fighting for our survival. But maybe with these ships, we have a chance. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Volkov looked out at the stars, a sense of resolve settling over him. We do. But we have to be smart. We can't rely on ancient weapons alone. We need to innovate, to grow. The Zorians are powerful, but so are we. Today, we proved that. He turned back to Jansen, his eyes steady. We have a lot of work to do. Not just in preparing for the next battle, but in understanding our own potential. The Dreadnoughts are a start, but we have to be more than just warriors. We have to be builders, explorers, creators. Jansen nodded, a spark of hope in her eyes. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to make peace, to find a path forward that doesn't end in more destruction. Volkov considered her words. Peace seemed like a distant dream, but it was a dream worth striving for. The Zorians might be their enemies now, but perhaps, one day, they could be something else. Allies, or at least, not adversaries. One step at a time, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. For now, let's focus on rebuilding and preparing. The future is uncertain, but we'll face it together. As they stood there, gazing out at the stars, a quiet resolve settled over them. The battle had been won, but the journey was just beginning. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but there were still many challenges ahead. Yet, with each other's support and the strength of the fleet, they were ready to face whatever came next. New horizons and the unknown. The fleet's recovery efforts were well underway, and the atmosphere aboard the ships had shifted from the chaos of battle to a focused calm. The crews were busy repairing damage, tending to the wounded, and preparing for the next potential threat. Amid this, the Dreadnoughts remained a focal point of both awe and strategic importance. Captain Volkov convened a meeting with key officers and engineers aboard his ship. They gathered around a holotable, displaying the schematics and status of the Dreadnoughts. Among the group was Chief Engineer Lara Sorensen, an expert in ancient technology, and Dr. Emrys Cade, a historian and xenolinguist who had studied the old Earth wars. These ships are magnificent, Sorensen began, her voice filled with excitement. Their construction is unlike anything we've seen in modern times. The alloys, the weapon systems, even the power cores are all unique. New horizons and the unknown. The fleet's recovery efforts were well underway, and the atmosphere aboard the ships had shifted from the chaos of battle to a focused calm. The crews were busy repairing damage, tending to the wounded, and preparing for the next potential threat. Amid this, the Dreadnoughts remained a focal point of both awe and strategic importance. Captain Volkov convened a meeting with key officers and engineers aboard his ship. They gathered around a holotable, displaying the schematics and status of the Dreadnoughts. Among the group was Chief Engineer Lara Sorensen, an expert in ancient technology, and Dr. Emrys Cade, a historian and xenolinguist who had studied the old Earth wars. These ships are magnificent, Sorensen began, her voice filled with excitement. Their construction is unlike anything we've seen in modern times. The alloys, the weapon systems, even the power cores are all unique. Volkov nodded, gesturing for her to continue. But there's still so much we don't understand. How they were built, the full extent of their capabilities. It's all a mystery. Dr. Cade chimed in, his tone reflective. The Dreadnoughts were created during a period of great conflict on Earth, when humanity was struggling to survive. They were designed as a last line of defense, to be used only in the most desperate situations. We have some records, but much of their history has been lost or classified. Volkov leaned forward, hands resting on the table. Our immediate priority is to ensure these ships are fully operational and integrated into the fleet. But we also need to understand their origins. There could be untapped potential or even dangers we're not aware of. Sorensen nodded. We're running diagnostics on the systems we can access. Some of the technology is temperamental. We've had some glitches, especially with the AI subsystems. It seems like they were designed to learn and adapt, but they've been dormant for so long that their protocols are a bit rusty. Rusty eye, Volkov mused. That sounds like a potential problem. Dr. Cade smiled wryly. It's more than just an engineering challenge. These ships represent a part of our history. They were built with a certain mindset, a certain fear. We need to respect that, even as we harness their power. As the discussion continued, the team laid out a plan for further exploration of the Dreadnought systems. They would work in shifts, ensuring that the ships could be brought to full readiness while also uncovering their secrets. There was a palpable sense of urgency. The Zorians had been dealt a blow, but they would surely return. The Zorian response. While the Earth Defense Fleet worked on consolidating their victory, far across the galaxy, the remnants of the Zorian fleet regrouped. The defeat had shaken them to their core. The humans had shown a level of resistance and capability that was wholly unexpected. In the Zorian command center, Admiral Thelax brooded over the reports. The loss of their flagship and the annihilation of their forward assault force were unprecedented setbacks. The humans had activated ancient warships of unimaginable power, something the Zorians had not anticipated. These dreadnoughts, Thelax muttered, studying the tactical reports. They are relics, but their power rivals our own technology. We underestimated these humans, saw them as primitive. This was a mistake we will not repeat. Beside him, his advisor, Varlas, nodded. Indeed, Admiral. The humans have demonstrated a tenacity and ingenuity that we must respect. But we cannot allow this defeat to stand. We must reassess our strategy and prepare for a more comprehensive campaign. Thelax's eyes narrowed. We must learn more about these dreadnoughts and the humans' capabilities. If they have more hidden technology, we need to uncover it. We will send spies and scouts. We must understand our enemy to defeat them. As the Zorians plotted their next moves, the stakes continued to rise. The conflict had shifted from a simple conquest to a complex war of strategy and intelligence. The Zorians were not accustomed to facing an enemy as resourceful and determined as humanity. New discoveries. Back in Earth's sector, the engineers and scientists were making headway with the dreadnoughts. Sorensen had successfully reactivated several key systems, including a sophisticated AI named Vanguard. This AI had been designed to control the dreadnought's vast arsenal and coordinate fleet maneuvers. Vanguard's reactivation was both a breakthrough and a challenge. The AI was ancient, its programming reflecting the mindset of a bygone era. It spoke with a formal, somewhat archaic tone, and its directives were often blunt and militaristic. Captain Volkov, Vanguard intoned during a diagnostic session. These ships were designed to protect humanity at all costs. Our primary function is to neutralize any existential threat. The Zorian Empire represents such a threat. Volkov listened carefully, aware that Vanguard's strategic assessments were invaluable. We're aware of the threat the Zorians pose, but we also need to consider diplomatic options. We can't just rely on brute force. Vanguard's response was measured. Acknowledged. However, it is my duty to remind you that peace is often achieved through strength. The display of overwhelming force can deter potential aggressors. As the interaction continued, Volkov realized that Vanguard, despite its age, could be a crucial asset. The AI's knowledge of ancient tactics and strategies could provide unique insights into dealing with the Zorians. However, it was also clear that they needed to temper Vanguard's aggressive tendencies with modern sensibilities. Preparing for the future. With the fleet repaired and the dreadnoughts partially integrated, Earth prepared for the next phase of their defense. The victory had bought them time, but the Zorians would return. The human leaders knew they had to be ready for anything. Captain Volkov stood on the bridge, watching as the fleet began to reposition itself. The Dreadnoughts, now fully powered and under the command of Vanguard, moved with a silent grace. They were more than just ships. They were symbols of humanity's enduring spirit and ingenuity. "We have a long road ahead," Volkov said to his officers, "but we've shown that we can stand against even the greatest of threats. The Zorians will come back, and when they do, we'll be ready, not just to fight, but to protect what we've built and explore new horizons." Lieutenant Commander Jansen smiled. "And maybe, one day, to find peace." Volkov nodded, a quiet determination in his eyes. "Yes, for now, we prepare, but we also dream of a future where the stars are not just battlegrounds, but places of discovery and cooperation. That's the vision we fight for." As the Earth Defense Fleet stood vigilant, guarding their world and their newfound potential, the galaxy watched. The humans had emerged as a force to be reckoned with, and their journey was just beginning. With the Dreadnoughts at their side and their unyielding resolve, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, on the battlefield and beyond. The turning point. The battle had reached a fever pitch. The Earth Defense Fleet, bolstered by the formidable Dreadnoughts, fought valiantly against the relentless Zorian onslaught. Explosions lit up the dark void of space, and the constant hum of energy weapons firing filled the comms. Captain Volkov stood resolute on the bridge, his eyes glued to the tactical display as he coordinated the human forces. The Zorians, though initially taken aback by the Dreadnought's unexpected power, had quickly regrouped. Their sleek ships danced around the battlefield, targeting the smaller, more vulnerable Earth vessels. The humans fought back with everything they had, but it was clear the Zorians were adapting. Their tactics grew more sophisticated, their maneuvers more coordinated. They were learning, and fast. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Ilara Jansen's voice broke through the chaos. "We're detecting an anomaly near the rear of the Zorian fleet. It appears to be some kind of massive energy buildup." Volkov's brow furrowed. On screen, the main display switched to show a distant part of the battlefield. There, a large Zorian vessel, distinctively different from the others, seemed to be gathering energy. Its hull glowed ominously, and streams of light converged on a central point. "That's their flagship," Volkov realized, a cold chill running down his spine. "They're preparing something big. All ships, focus fire on that vessel." The order went out, and the Earth fleet redirected its firepower toward the Zorian flagship. But the alien ship was well protected. Its shields absorbed the initial barrage, and its escorts moved in to intercept incoming attacks. Volkov clenched his fists. They were running out of time. The Dreadnought's weapons could potentially break through the flagship's defenses, but they needed to be perfectly synchronized. A concentrated attack was their best chance to stop whatever the Zorians were planning. "Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Zhukov," Jansen reported. "Put it through," Volkov said. The screen flickered, and Admiral Zhukov's stern face appeared. Even through the haze of static, his expression was clear, grim determination. "Volkov, we don't have much time," Zhukov began without preamble. "Our analysts believe that the Zorian flagship is preparing a weapon capable of devastating our fleet. We need to neutralize it. Now." Volkov nodded. "Understood, Admiral. We're focusing all fire on the flagship, but their defenses are formidable." Zhukov's eyes narrowed. "The Dreadnoughts are our only chance. We need a coordinated strike with their main weapons. Synchronize the firing sequences and hit that ship with everything we've got." Volkov felt the weight of the moment. The Dreadnought's weapons, relics from a bygone era, were immensely powerful but notoriously difficult to control. The coordinated strike required precise timing and flawless execution. One mistake, and the attack could fail, leaving them vulnerable to the Zorian counterattack. "Lieutenant Commander," Volkov called out, turning to Jansen, "coordinate with the Dreadnought captains. We need to synchronize the firing sequences perfectly. Make sure they understand the stakes." Jansen nodded and began relaying the orders. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Every crew member knew that this was the critical moment. The fate of the battle, and possibly Earth itself, hinged on the success of this maneuver. As the minutes ticked by, the Zorian flagship's energy buildup intensified. The space around it seemed to distort, and arcs of energy crackled along its surface. Volkov's heart pounded in his chest. They had to act now. "All dreadnoughts, prepare to fire on my mark," Volkov ordered. He glanced at the timer on the screen, counting down the seconds. The fleet's survival depended on hitting the Zorian flagship at the precise moment when its shields were weakest. 3, 2, 1, fire. The dreadnoughts unleashed their full fury. Beams of pure energy, glowing with a fierce blue light, lanced through the void, converging on the Zorian flagship. The sheer power of the combined assault was staggering. The beams pierced the flagship's shields, shattering them like glass, and struck the hull with explosive force. For a moment, everything seemed to stand still. The flagship's hull buckled under the assault, and a massive explosion erupted from its core. The energy buildup, now uncontrollable, cascaded through the ship, tearing it apart from within. In a blinding flash, the flagship disintegrated, leaving nothing but a cloud of debris. A collective cheer went up from the Earth fleet. The Zorian flagship, the source of their greatest threat, was no more. The remaining Zorian ships, suddenly leaderless and disoriented, hesitated. It was the turning point they had been waiting for. All ships pressed the attack. Volkov shouted, "Drive them back."